All right. Hey, everybody. Happy Friday. It's Dr. Ashley, pediatric emergency mom. And in the conversation with kids series that I'm doing, one of the things we're talking about is food. And so I thought, who better to talk about food and have this conversation than with my good buddy Ross, who is a chef. And we've talked about food quite a bit. And funny story, we did this a few days ago on a YouTube live and it didn't save. So we're doing it again for y'all. So
Yeah,
welcome, Ross.
anytime fun. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. I'm
Yeah.
happy to be here.
So one of the things we've talked about, right, is in parents or caregivers talking to kids about food and healthy eating and making healthy choices, that we have to come to terms with the way we think about food.
Yep.
Right. So do you like can you just kind of start with that and your thoughts on that?
Well, a lot of these things are super, super subjective. So it's going to be on like an individual basis because everybody might have just different dietary needs. And then as parents, you have to know what your kids' dietary needs are and just sort of the balance between those things and kind of like how we had talked before, finding ways to find balance between those for both you and your kids too.
Yeah, for sure. So many parents say and the lady that was checking me out at Trader Joe's the other day was like, my kid only eats macaroni and cheese and chicken nuggets. And so that's a recurring theme is that kids
Yep,
are picky and they're only wanting those certain things. And like kids are really little carbitarians, right? If it were
they
up
are.
to them, that's all they would eat. And so how do you go from and we talked as well like how toddlers little babies and toddlers, they'll try all different things and then there's a certain point where they just stop and they
Right.
only want those certain things, so bringing them back out of that picky mode.
Yeah. A lot of it is, discipline as far as, just making sure that your kids understand why you're feeding them the things that you are feeding them and making them understand that like it's more than just what tastes good. It's got to be about what you're eating for fuel for the day. And like you said, kids need tons of carbohydrates and they're going to get them from all over the place as far as anything from chicken tenders, like you said, French fries, potatoes, snacks that they're eating in the afternoon, sugary stuff that we don't love to admit that we let them eat, but they do. Just they're going to get plenty of carbs and sugar from all those places. So, just understanding what certain limits they should be kept to and making sure that certain things might be a little bit more out of reach for them that kind of you just keep on a leash just like everything else as a parent.
And speaking of reach, you have a great trick
Yep.
for
uh,
healthy foods.
yeah, so I think that kids are similar to us in the sense that like a lot of times they're going to look for convenience, what's right in front of their face. And things that I'm lucky my kids do love fruit. They love to eat bananas and apples and strawberries and raspberries and all kinds of things like that. So we have like a rack that is right next to the fridge that everything on their level, it's about chest high on me, but everything on their level is very easy for them to grab. And then, they can just grab a banana or grab an apple. And those things are healthy and they're better than, if in your pantry, if all of your bags of potato chips and cookies and everything are on a level that they can grab, well, they're going to go for those every time. I mean, there's no doubt about that, especially when they run in there when you're not looking. So,
Oh yeah.
uh, my daughter's figured out how to get ice cream out of the freezer now. So, it's you still gotta listen for like what's going on in the kitchen. But yeah, like I said, helping yourself, helping them out, you know, convenience, making things easy, accessible for them to grab. Anything that you can do, even in the refrigerator, as far as like, you know, having things like milk and juice as opposed to like sodas or something like that on shelves that they're going to be eye level or looking for stuff to drink. Uh, stuff that like is kind of like they could have like their own little drawer that has the little string cheeses and things that are, decent snacks that they need, that, they're just easy to get at, and something that they can just, when they get home from school, just grab one and go run in their room and, do their homework or jump on their tablets or whatever they're doing. So, yeah.
Whatever they're doing.
Right.
And so as far as vegetables, like with your kids and introducing vegetables,
Yeah.
are you a sneaky chef, or you're just laying it out there?
No. So what I again kind of like I started a lot of my kids young, and that's kind of part of this is like, when your kids like first start eating solid foods, like just, introducing it to them, at a young age, to where their palate starts to just get used to it. And then as they get older, cook it with butter, like put the salt in there, make it taste like, it doesn't have to be ultra healthy vegetables for them, but just the fact that you're getting the vegetables in there, make them taste good, And if you're, like I was kind of saying about the balance between carbs and all that stuff for adults, like if your kids are getting all these carbs from snacks and, other places, even fruit's got sugar and stuff in it, they're getting carbs there. If for dinner, that they're getting carbs everywhere else, and you as an adult are sticking to maybe like a more protein and vegetable and fat heavy diet and staying away from carbs and sugar, well, cook that for dinner. You're getting what you need, and the vegetables are going to taste good to them because it's got butter and seasonings and all that kind of stuff in it. So those are kind of the ways that I think that you can meet the balance between what you need to eat, what they need to eat, and making it easy on yourself to where you only have to cook one thing for dinner, instead of having to be like, okay, what do you want? What do you want? What do you want? And having to, have all these individual things that you have to deal with. So,
Yeah, which is super hard for parents and caregivers, right? Like that'll burn you out in a day.
Yeah, I'm lucky that I like to cook. If I hated to cook, I couldn't imagine. It's just one extra chore. It's one extra thing that can really make you mad, or I get frustrated if I do something wrong, and if somebody who doesn't love cooking, and that it's like me trying to fix an engine or something, like I get mad and start banging on things too. Like I get it. So yeah, I mean, making it as easy on yourself as possible. Your mental health is a big part of this too. So.
Yes. And that, for me, I feel like if we don't have a plan early in the day, or
even in the week,
right, then if it's 6 p.m., 5:30, 6 p.m., and Jack and I are looking at each other like, what's for dinner? Then that's when
you're already behind the 8 ball.
Yeah. We're both aggravated. The kids are hungry, tired. And then that's when it's like, go for the fast food or the
delivery services and, and all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. When really, and I've realized, like, since I've been home and cooking more or meal prepping more, that you save a ton of money.
You will, especially if you're, something like, pound of ground beef is like $5 or $6, jar of spaghetti sauce, $3-4.
Yeah.
As opposed to, so you spent like $10, fed the family, as opposed to 80.
Right.
To get everybody food, or, whatever it is. So,
because I remember when we're older, right? But you could go out to dinner and it would be $30 or $40, and now it's
everything's expensive right now. That's something everybody's feeling. I don't care what walk of life you're in, everything's more expensive. And going out to eat is, it's kind of one of those things that it's sort of like we have to eat. But then you kind of have to pick and choose, like how often and, where you're eating every time you go out to eat. And if you've got a family of 3, 4, 5, it adds up real quick. And especially, my kids are getting to be the two oldest ones are 10 and 8. So, they're starting to eat. Can't just do
But
kids menus anymore.
no, and then like even if it's something they like on the kids menu, it's not enough, and
Mhm.
they're hungry. Yeah.
Asking for fries off my plate, right?
And so for the parents that aren't great at cooking,
Mhm.
and then B don't have a ton of time. I mean, the
Yep.
other day we talked about too, like the cheater things to do, like the
Having a plan is just a big part of it. Like, if you can on Sunday, plan, if you can get like three, like what, like I was kind of talking about in previous, like one pot meal kind of things to where like you can make a pot, feed the family. And then like the next night you might like make your second pot of stuff, but then you've got 2 more days of like leftovers to kind of rotate between to where it's easier just to like heat something up for everybody as opposed to like make a whole new dish, and dirty up a whole nother set of pans and pots and, having to clean everything afterwards. So, again, I think that like having a plan in place, the discipline to like just stick to a plan and, just, sticking to it. That's the biggest thing. So,
yeah. And I personally cheat with things that are frozen,
yeah,
right?
sure. Yeah. Oh,
Bag of
those little stir fry bags and stuff. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
frozen broccoli. Bag now you can even get frozen rice, right?
Yep.
You put it in the microwave. That way you don't have to worry about the rice cooker.
And then
And
they've got the cauliflower rices. And I mean,
yeah,
there's so many options now that like, you know, there's so many things that like you can get a decent plate of food out of stuff that you can just buy and put in a pot and turn a burner on. And if you can manage doing that, you can get it done. So,
and if we're all so busy and tired, and at the end of the day, um, and so let's say like we're home with the kids and it's evening and they want to play, Nintendo or whatever. But a good thing that I found to do is like, hey, let's sit and talk. Like, let's hang out for a bit.
yep.
Um, and
Kids love helping in the kitchen too.
yeah, and so let's
Mhm.
let's Google some recipes of something simple we can make for tomorrow or the
Yep.
next day or whenever. And you're going to help me. But that way you're picking something that you like to eat,
Mhm.
and then you'll help me make it.
Well, and again, that it sort of solidifies you're learning, what goes into food. As a kid, you're learning like what it takes for a meal to get made, what goes in the food, and the fact that like what you're putting in your food, and the fact that like it's not processed or has preservatives and all these other things in it. Just it's healthier for everybody as a whole. And then, I that's how I started cooking. When I was a kid, I mean, we ate at home all the time. We might have went out to eat like 2-3 times a year at the most,
Wow.
and just my parents cooked at home every night, and then they really loved doing like the holiday glory cooking and stuff like that. So it was just rare that we went out to eat, and whenever I could reach a countertop, started cutting vegetables and stuff for my mom. And then I started kind of noticing that when I cooked stuff, it was a little better than other people. So, so yeah, so it led to my love of cooking, which led to a career in the restaurant business, and I'm still, tied to the restaurant business with what I'm doing today. So they're going to learn skills. They might turn it into a hobby. They might turn it into a career. You just never know. So
Yeah, and like my kids love science so much, and we love science so much, and it's really just chemistry.
you should check out the book that's called The Science of Cooking, or On Science and Cooking, or something like that. And it goes into all the chemistry of what happens to food when, like when you grill or sear a steak, like you're denaturing proteins,
Yeah.
Stuff like that, like it, that's why when you cook a steak more done, the proteins denature further, they get tighter and tighter. And that's why they get more stiff when they get well done and tight, tougher.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of chemistry that goes into food that, if you're a science nerd, you can spend hours learning. I
Yeah.
went through a whole phase of like molecular gastronomy stuff where I was, making all the different foams and spheres and all that kind of stuff.
Oh my
It's a rabbit hole all unto itself. So, yeah.
There's a fiction book out. You probably heard of it, Lessons in Chemistry. And it's about.
I haven't read it, but I've heard of it.
Yeah, she's a female chemist in like the 50s.
Mm-hmm.
And the only real job she can get is cooking on TV.
Okay.
But she insists on doing it. That's kind of a part of the whole book. But she insists
teaching chemistry while doing it. That's
yes,
cool.
Exactly. So I have a funny story for you. I think you'll appreciate. So like a year ago, 2 years ago, the boys wanted to make me a soup, and they did this, and this was hard because when the soup is done, it's like, Mom, do you like it? And you can't break their hearts and say no, but if you say yes, they're gonna want to make you another soup.
Uh-huh.
And this soup was chopped bell peppers and water. That was the soup. I was like,
no salt, no nothing. Just bell peppers and water.
Yeah. But
try a little harder next time, buddy.
All right. Well, that's what I told them. You need to follow a recipe. Like, look up a recipe.
Right.
But in talking about kids in the kitchen, I just wanted to say for anybody that's watching, I got the boys' knives on Amazon years ago. They're plastic. They actually cut pretty well. And so for, especially the younger kids that you're worried they're going to get distracted, cut themselves. And it's only like my 10-year-old now who will trust him with a knife with us next to him, right?
Same here.
But the 8-year-old still not quite yet.
She's got free reign with butter knives and strawberries. So.
Oh yeah. But the now 10-year-old that drove the making of this soup.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying for all kids this works, but for those kids that you find are a little more attuned to being in the kitchen, at the end of last school year, Jack told him, well, if you want a sunny side up egg every day, you're gonna have to make it. And he taught him how to make it.
There you go.
Like the end of the school year last year, I was like, I'm an unfit parent because I'm still asleep. I'm still in the bed. And Jimmy will come and be like, Mom, I made my breakfast, sunny side up egg toast, and I made one for Henry, and I plated Henry's, and I put it in the microwave so the dogs won't eat it.
Oh,
I'm like, so terrible mother.
No, you taught him. You taught him so you can get a night, a morning in every now and then. That's good.
Well, and in all fairness, he makes a better egg than I do. So
sounds like he needs to be making mommy eggs too.
Yeah. But so for parents and convenience, so what I tell my parents in the ER, if they're coming with kids that are, one of our most common complaints in the ER is belly pain.
Right.
And the vast majority of belly pain in kids is caused by their diet, right?
Yeah.
They're eating tons of hot Cheetos or Takis or fried food, spicy foods. And sometimes it's too much for them to tolerate. And if they're eating just carbs, then oftentimes they become pretty constipated.
Yep.
So I'll tell parents, like when you go to the grocery store can be crazy overwhelming, right?
Yep.
But if you stick to the outside edge of the grocery store, right, where you have your produce and then your meats and then your dairy and then maybe a little bit in the middle with the frozen, and the grains are usually close to the edge, then it narrows down your grocery store experience.
For sure. Yeah. No, that's very true. Sticking to, like I said, back to like raw, fresh ingredients that what you're putting in there, as opposed to something that came in a box. Has an ingredients list that has words that I can't even pronounce.
Right. Or it'll live on your shelf for months and be totally fine. Like,
it's not exactly what I would call food, but sometimes you just in a pinch and you need that. I get it, but like you said, sticking to the outside of the store is probably a really good method. Another is stay away from like beige plates, as I say.
Oh, yeah.
Something that I mean, you think about like mashed potatoes, chicken fried steak, and gravy, like delicious, delicious,
Delicious.
really bad for you.
Yeah.
So if you try to stay away from beige plates as much as possible, every now and then, sure, splurge, have fun, but
Yeah. No,
beige
that's a
plates,
really,
yeah,
I'm
typically aren't the best for you.
I'm taking that and I'm going to quote you.
Go ahead.
Taking that. That's great. And then
Okay,
understanding, like we're obviously very attuned to the fact that many families may live in food deserts
Yep.
or are working multiple jobs. And
Mhm.
so they get their kids at aftercare, like fast food is the only option for them.
Right.
But like,
there's other options at fast food too. It's just a matter
yeah,
of
that's what I
ordering it
was saying.
sometimes.
Like, kudos to the fast food industry for realizing, like, hey, a lot of our food is really terrible.
Yeah.
So instead of just French fries as a side, we'll offer apple slices
Mhm.
or salad, or and going for maybe the grilled chicken sandwich or a salad instead of the gigantic
And
cheese.
some of them have really good. I mean, Chick-fil-A salads are good. Not trying to plug Chick-fil-A or anything, but like as far as fast food goes, it's kind of hard to beat that stuff. The other places that I think a lot of people like miss out on is like Rouse's. You can walk into Rouse's and they have all these different like prepared foods and things that you can just grab, one item and go, that they're delicious, fresh, and just as quick as going through a drive-through if all you're doing is going in and grabbing one item and walking out the store.
Yeah.
Or that could be part of your grocery. When you get your groceries, you got 5 things that you can just grab and go that you either take to work, keep with you in a little lunchbox, whatever the case is. Just making it easy on yourself, kids too. We actually just recently started doing, not every day of the week, but most of the days we're sending the kids with lunch. When they see something on the menu that they like or whatever, that, okay, fine, they can just get that for lunch when they're at school. But like for the most part, that's another thing is we find that they eat more of their lunch when they not only know or have a say so in what they're going to get. Like my middle son, he is on medication, so a lot of times, like for lunch, like he would just skip and not eat. But like now that like we're like, what do you want to take with you? Like, I don't know, mentally it's like he knows he's got to eat it more, and so he does. And he comes home with, an empty lunchbox, as opposed to like me asking him, what'd you have for lunch? And he was just like, oh, I didn't eat anything today.
Yeah, and them bringing their lunch as a parent, like you said, then you can quantify how much they had, because you can't see their plate at school. And some of the school lunches, I think in some areas we do well, and then in other areas not so well. And I don't
well, and they're stuck between,
yeah,
making kids happy and making parents happy. So
yeah. One of the things we talked about the other day was like for our kids now, the age that they are, they can choose a treat to go with their lunch.
Yeah.
So if you have, a pretty well balanced school lunch, but then they pick a chocolate milk to drink, and then they get one of these treats, which is like a little ice cream cone or whatever.
Cookie, whatever. Right.
And then, between the chocolate milk and this treat, and so that's one thing that I want to be able to.
Kind of goes back to what I was saying about like, your kids are going to get plenty of carbs and sugar from all these other places during the day. So as an adult, again, if you're on a, low carb diet, feed that to your kids too. They don't need them every single, like if they're getting them, if they're going to get the chocolate milk and the cookies and all that at lunch, and if they come home and they have a snack when they get home, well, they probably don't need the carbs and the sugar for going to sleep at night. They can taper off too, just the way that we do. So.
Yeah. And so part of in this series, like I'll be talking to a friend that's a dentist. So how this impacts your teeth as well.
100%, yeah.
and then a friend that's a pediatric endocrinologist. So these spikes in sugar, right? And
Yeah.
in the long run is quite bad for you.
Right.
And just as a kid, you're poor things. They're sitting through some long classes sometimes. It can get kind of monotonous. And if you're coming down off of a chocolate milk ice cream,
sugar high, right?
Yeah, feel bad for them. It's pretty rough.
Then you got to go run around in 103-degree weather outside.
Oh my god, it's gonna melt. Yeah. And then the last thing I took notes of, like what we talked about last time. For as far as because we hear this all the time, food and candy as rewards,
right?
And I'll tell you, when Jibby was in daycare, the head of the daycare was an amazing lady, but it was like if a kid wasn't behaving and they got sent to her office, she would have a talking to them, and then they would leave with a piece of candy. Or before they left for the day, they would get a piece of candy. And I think it sets a kind of a dangerous.
Yeah, they act up, they go there, and then they get rewarded for going to the office, right?
Yeah. What are your thoughts on like food as rewards?
I don't like to use it as rewards on a regular basis. They had a milestone that they achieved. They got their report card back with grades that they pulled up. Bigger things, go get ice cream. Take them to go do those things. Make it an event. Go brush your teeth and you can have candy. No, I don't think that's a good idea at all. Go finish your homework and you can, have a piece of cake. I don't think that's, rewarding them for stuff that like they're supposed to do on a regular basis with candy and treats. I do retriever stuff. You can actually see some of the ribbons right there. But we do not use food as rewards for dog training ever do we ever use, food as like the motivator or the reward. And I've also learned that there's a lot of similarities in like kids and dogs.
Oh, it's 100%.
But the way that like we work with the dogs is that like, well, number one, you almost want to kind of make the dog think that what he did was his idea in the first place.
Same with kids.
And you're just so super happy and excited that they did it, and that, that you're really happy with that behavior. And then on the opposite end of that too, you've got to have a standard that you stick to and stay consistent with, that you correct, and have, corrections for things that you don't like and that I don't know why someone's knocking on my door. But speaking of dogs,
look, if you need to run.
No, it's fine. I'm not expecting anybody, so it's probably just something that, whatever. But yeah, so they, using food as a motivator, I don't think that's a good idea. I'm not one to try to tell anybody like how to parent kids or anything, but I think that just, having a standard that you kind of expect from them and just showing your appreciation and praising them for like the stuff that's right, and then, like I said, if you have a big event or something and they love ice cream, well, same thing with an adult, like treat yourself, kind of thing. So, yeah,
really. No, that's really interesting because especially with little boys, I'll say little boys since I have two boys and this is what I really know. But when you're trying to get them to follow multiple step directions, and if they're ADHD, right, like, keeping
them on track.
When they do it, instead of acting like, well, you were supposed to do that anyway, it's praising the mundane, right? And recognizing them and thanking them for getting through what they needed to get through.
Yep.
Yeah, no, because I'm a dog person as well, like the similarities and the parallels between little kids and dogs are just.
He's right here. He's a good boy.
You see him. Oh, he is a good boy. I am very impressed with like the 2 barks and that was it.
Well, he knows, like, you know, he just, like I said, if you spend 30 minutes a day with the dog and you train them and, like, you know, you get them doing what you want to do, they know it's like this unspoken communication kind of thing. And you can have similar stuff with your kids where it's like, you know, your kid starts doing something and all you have to do is like cut eyes at them. And that's all you need. There's no words, but they know what's coming next, you know? So yeah. So, you know, same thing with him. You know, he does bark when there's people close by or banging on a door or something. But as soon as, like, you know, he's told to sit, he sits. Good boy.
Don't judge me on, well, my dogs haven't barked, but you would give me an F in dog training.
You just need to spend more time on it. That's all.
I've been working with them on the leash.
Yeah.
They're a very stubborn breed.
Yeah.
I told Jack this morning.
Every breed's different too, but
I told Jack this morning, I was like, get blue ticks, you said. They'll be so fun, you said. And
they are extremely loyal dogs. They are great companions. They're incredibly smart. But if they're like, I'm not doing it, they're just going to not do it.
And they're loud.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, very stubborn.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much.
No, appreciate you having me. Hope it helps. You know, and always here for another one if y'all want to chat about something else too. So thanks.
For sure. Thanks, Ross. Have a good day.
You too. See you.
Bye.
Bye.